Okay, here we are. We're live. We're here. I have zero computer skills, so this is it's all flying by the seat of my pants. And I won't lie, I'm slightly nervous because who I'm talking to is I consider an expert, not only in martial arts, but also in doing these things. So
I'm a self
you're,
expert, Ray.
yeah, no, you're, I have a couple inspirations for doing these, and you're one of the main ones. So
Thanks.
I appreciate it.
That's good to hear. That's heartwarming.
Well, and it comes from the heart. I mean that. So welcome everyone. It's Ray, Tales from the Mats. I think this is episode 9, and currently I've been interviewing Inosanto Academy martial arts instructors. I stay away from politics. We mostly just talk about boring stuff, martial arts, and where people got started and all that stuff. And then after we stop recording, maybe we talk about all the good stuff. Who knows? But no.
Oh, I see. Okay.
No, you're feel free. Obviously, you can talk about whatever you want, but I do post this on the Guru Dan and Asana fan club, so I keep everything very professional. And we're just about honoring Guru Dan's legacy. So
Right.
I'm gonna just start with a little bit different tonight. I'm gonna start with the plugs, meaning where are you, and tell me about your school.
Oh, okay. So I don't have a school anymore. I haven't had a
Oh,
school since 2015, where I was unceremoniously asked to exit from a partnership in which I had engaged for 2 years. So I ran my own school for almost 30 years.
oh,
And
wow.
then and then had the brilliant idea to partner with some people, and that did not work out.
Yeah.
And so I left, and they lasted about 2 months after I was gone. So obviously I was not the problem.
Yeah.
And yeah, so since then it's been small groups and private clients. And yeah, so that's what keeps me busy. Not as busy because you can only train so many private clients and what have you. But yeah, I still keep my what do you call it, fingers in the pie. So I haven't stopped teaching.
Right.
I'll never stop teaching. I'll be like our instructor. When I'm 88, I'll still be on the floor teaching.
Haha, exactly. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
you have so much knowledge to offer people. So, I mean, we won't get into much into it, but running a school takes a lot of work. And there's a
Mhm.
lot of headaches. There's a lot of
Mhm.
wonderful things from it too. I ran a school for 27 years, and then COVID
Right.
hit. But the last 2, 3 years of running my school, I didn't even want to go because I had 12 instructors teaching there. And, you have different cliques and different
Yeah.
opinions. And I personally, for me, and again, this is only my opinion only, there has to be one boss, and that's it.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
and
right. I mean, even if you have 12 instructors, those 12 instructors have to know who their boss is.
yeah, and that never happened. I'm very giving of my time. Of hey, you just try to run that class, and I'll help you, and blah blah blah. Anyway, led me to
Uh,
a bunch of problems, and when COVID hit, I
yeah.
closed it down, and then my friend built a gym 2 minutes and 30 seconds from my house, and so it's his gym. I go and help him. He's the
Very
boss,
good.
and I just help. But I'm real
Okay.
curious because in your message to me, you mentioned that you either drive or you walk or you took the bus or train or something.
Yeah, I've never liked driving
Okay.
longer than 10 minutes or so.
Interesting.
I've never been a fan of it. So my Wednesday clients live she and I work out 10 minutes north of me, and
Okay.
the other one is 10 minutes. My afternoon one is 10 minutes south of me. But tomorrow morning, I have a guy in a place called North Bay Village. North Bay Village is, let's say, 10 miles away from here, right? I won't drive that.
Oh, I see.
I won't drive that. Plus, he and I train at 10 a.m. So that means that I'm going north from where I live,
Yep.
And that is bumper to bumper traffic.
Oh, I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, that's bumper to bumper traffic from 6 a.m. to about 11 a.m.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not right. Now, here's the thing. Right above that is the metro rail. So I am able to look, I'm able to look down at all these people in their stop and go traffic.
You're just whipping by.
I'm on the train just whizzing by.
Okay.
Yeah. So
nice.
I do that. I take the train and then up to one of the train stations, and then I take a really interesting bus to go out to him, because the route to where he lives, which is upscale, goes Hood, 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 Bridge, upscale.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
You see it all. Wow.
Right.
Just real quick, is the hurricane affecting you at all?
So we are under tropical storm warning or tropical storm watch.
Okay.
Right. So if you look at Legacy Media's graphic, it shows the entire state of Florida in red.
Yeah.
However, if you switch to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's cone, it doesn't show the same thing.
Oh, interesting.
So local media is trying to scare the pants off of us.
Typical.
Right? Yeah. Right. So my friends on the west coast of Florida, the southwest and the west coast of Florida, have more concern than I think we have to have, because this thing, the way it's curving coming up from Mexico, it's going up the Gulf of Mexico. I would say that Louisiana has more to worry about than we do.
Okay.
To be honest, right? But it's a huge hurricane, so yes, we will feel something, but
right.
I don't forecast torrential downpours for us. But hey, I'm a martial arts instructor. I'm not a meteorologist, you know.
Right.
So.
Okay. All right. Do you work as well, or do you have a full-time job, or you don't do that anymore, or?
No, I quit corporate stuff in well, it quit me because my airline company went out of business in 1991.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah. So and I was full-time with Eastern Airlines. I don't know if you're old enough to remember them.
I'm 56. But
okay. And okay, now you're Atlantic time.
That is correct. So I'm on the East Coast of Canada. So
you're in Newfoundland or something?
I'm in what's called Nova Scotia.
Okay.
That's right. Well, it's close to Newfoundland. It's in our
right. Okay. Right. I should have known that.
That's okay.
Okay, so yeah, so Eastern used to fly out of Buffalo into Toronto.
Yeah.
We used to fly out of LaGuardia into Montreal. And where else? Montreal, Toronto, and we used to fly out of somewhere else into Ottawa. Those were our 3 Canadian destinations.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so my airline company may not have been as well known as as others. So I worked with them full time up until 1989, and then because of the strike and what have you, I was downgraded to part time for the last 2 years. But that was a blessing in disguise, because at my warehouse, my martial arts warehouse, which had an eerie design. Did you ever go to not the current Marina del Rey in the Sano Academy location, but either of the 2 that preceded that?
Sadly, no. I've only been to the.
Okay. So my good friend, the late Neil Colliff, the first time he came to visit my warehouse, he started cracking up. I'm like, what's so funny? He goes, Dwight, it's obvious why you picked this warehouse. It looks just like the Innisano Academy.
Yeah, well, if I could do that, I'd do the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I upgraded there to full-time. So I had a full-time martial arts warehouse and part-time airline. And so when the airline company closed, I just smoothly transitioned into full-time martial arts. So it's been nothing but martial art for the past 33 years.
Wow, that's amazing,
Yeah.
and people may not be sure, but with these conversations I had with people, I'm asking questions that I want to hear and that I enjoy talking about. So I know there's lots of people online like ask this question, ask that question, but I want to know just the questions that are in me that I want to know are the ones that I'm asking. So
Mhm.
yeah, in case but I guess I have to go right back to the very first. You're not from where are you from originally?
So I was born in Trinidad, but I never lived there. I
Oh,
grew
I
up in
see.
Barbados. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you've been in Florida all your life?
No, I moved here in 1986.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
yeah, because so in 1980, while I was still living in Barbados, on my birthday in 1980, um, the Eastern Airlines, instead of flying from Barbados to San Juan or Barbados to St. Thomas and St. Croix, consolidated those two flights into one single wide body flight, Barbados to Miami.
Right.
So in 1980, I started coming to the mainland on a regular basis,
Okay.
right? I had spent actually I was telling my client Amy the story today. That's funny. Um, I had been laid off temporarily. They knew they were going to rehire me, but I had been laid off temporarily. And I had made a good friend with a passenger who had come through the islands, right? And she was from Seattle.
Oh, yes.
And she had said to me, well, if you ever want to come to Seattle to visit, feel free. And so I took her up on her offer. And while I was on hiatus, I spent 3 months in Seattle visiting Bruce Lee's gravesite,
Oh,
training with
wonderful.
Jesse Glover's
Oh,
little brother. I didn't get to meet Taki Kimura, right, during the time that I was there,
right.
but that was the early months of 1980. Then they rehired me and immediately shipped me to Miami for training, and that started everything.
Okay.
Because now, right, here's why. Now, with Eastern Airlines was the biggest corporate employer in what at the time was called Dade County. It's now called Miami-Dade County.
Yes.
So even as a foreigner, if you were a foreigner, but you had an Eastern Airlines ID, you could do just about anything as long as it was legal, right?
Wow.
In Miami. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, right? So I could get myself a post office box, okay? Which meant that instead of waiting 2 weeks after this magazine is
I
put
have
out
that one.
in the state, right?
Yeah.
Instead of waiting 2 weeks and paying the local bookstore to bring this in for me, I could just fly up and pick it up myself
Wow.
from the newsstand or from my P.O. box where my subscriptions were sent,
Wow. Wow.
right? So yeah,
Uh,
so in 1980, my life changed drastically. In 1982, in one of those magazines, I saw the ad for California Martial Arts Academy.
oh, that's so we don't get ahead,
Okay.
sort of chronologically, but real quick, Miami-Dade County. I know
Uh-huh.
that name only because me and my wife love watching the TV show Cops, and it's always on there. Officer so and so, Miami-Dade County. We're like, yeah, there's gonna be
Yeah.
action.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's
Because,
always something happening in that part
there
of
are,
the world.
there are some parts of my town that are quite colorful.
Yeah. So where did your first spark come from for martial arts? Like, were you born in the Shaolin Temple, or were
Yes.
you?
Yes. I was born and raised in the Shaolin Temple where Wang Yu was my first instructor, as the one-armed Chinese swordsman.
Ah.
That was where I got my start.
There you go.
Yeah.
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 So when did
And
you start,
so-
like, your first getting involved with martial arts?
Say that again?
When did you actually, when was your first, when did you get involved with martial arts? Like, that's,
Yeah. So
how
I was
did that start?
I was about I don't know, 10 years old or so, I think. Right. And fell in love with kung fu films and what have you. And practiced everything that I could remember from every movie that I watched.
Yeah.
Right. I'd come home from watching the movies and be late at night sweating up a storm in my backyard, right? Doing what I could. And then in 71, the Big Boss played. And that changed everything, because now it was no longer the extended 15-minute fight scenes.
Yeah.
Right? Here was this guy that was getting straight to the point, and he wasn't doing elephant style or kangaroo style or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm making fun, right?
Of course.
But I mean, he was just hitting people, and when he hit people, they fell down and they didn't really get back up. So that changed things, and that's when I started down the Bruce Lee path. You see, but this is 1971, so I mean, I'm a really young kid, and I couldn't, there wasn't much that I could do, but I knew that Bruce Lee was going to play an important role in my existence. And then in March of 1976.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay.
That's rare.
In March of 1976, this came about, and it had the article, The Continuing Story of Jeet Kune Do, right, through Danny Inosanto. Okay. So
was it Dan Inosanto or Danny Inosanto?
Oh, it says Danny, D-A-N-Y. Yeah, it actually does say Danny Inosanto.
Yeah.
So I can't say, oh wait, want to see something? Check this out. Ooh, autographed and everything, Dwight.
Oh, is that Chris Kent?
That's Chris Nuds at the time, because this is 1976.
Look at that.
He changed his name. But yeah, I took this to a seminar at some point and got Sifu Dan to sign it for me.
Yeah, that's his world famous writing. That's one thing I always say about Guru Dan, and you're gonna maybe laugh at this, but his writing, of course, everyone's writing is different, but his always perfect. And he's always got a little tilt to his head when he takes a photo. And and he's a massive expert on football. Yeah. And his favorite line is, "At that time period."
Yeah. So, I have a student who is going up to Atlanta with us who played college football. So his first Inosanto experience, I want to say, was a year ago when we went to the Inosanto and Fong Atlanta seminar. Okay. I'm pretty sure for Bill. So when Inosanto starts in on the football stories, right? Good. I could see Bill's mind and his heart just growing, right? So by the time that weekend was over, he was in love with Inosanto because of football. Yeah.
And of course track too, right? Track and field or track.
Yeah.
So how did you get involved with, so you obviously you had the magazines, you were in love with Bruce Lee, you tried to follow everything. So what was your quest? Your quest was to
So there was a quote, which I'll probably take a hatchet to it, but it was essentially that Jeet Kune Do is the search for truth in martial art combat.
Nice.
Right? And so to me, that became a guiding point. But then the search for truth, and as I put it today, the search for truth in all things in which you are interested. That's what grew out of Jeet Kune Do for me. So that is still the quest to this day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right? You know, I'm not a subscriber to the idea that everyone has their own truth. No, everyone has their own feelings and thoughts and opinions about stuff, but that doesn't make it true.
Correct. Yeah.
You know, so I'm not a big fan that your truth is not my truth. So you know, so that puts me somewhat at odds with a very popular statement in the Jeet Kune Do world, which is the truth in martial art is different for every individual in this style. I understand what's meant by that.
Right.
If it were up to me, back when that sign was made, I probably would not have used the word truth. But at that time, yeah, it was a common thing to say. And a lot of people still say it. But if I was attempting to speak accurately, I would use a different word.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always say with my students, you know, they always ask what style and which style is better, blah, 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 and what should I be doing? I just say the truth is in combat. So whether you're in a sports setting, the truth will come out, what you're good at, what you can use.
Yeah.
If you're in a real life and death situation, well, the truth comes out in combat, you know, even in war. So even Guru Dan always says, you know, you can't have an army on one side that they all come across the field and the other army comes and joins them and they all crash together. Times have changed, right? But I don't know. I would say the truth is in combat. You find out what works, whether it's in sparring or grappling or just in live training, even with the Filipino martial arts and just banging each other with sticks, you know, it'll come out what hopefully will work. Yeah. So how did you get involved? How did you get involved with all the Inosano stuff?
So, like I said, hang on one second.
No problem. Because I usually try to keep these podcasts about an hour, and we still have lots of time.
Oh, okay. All right.
And
No,
I know you can talk about martial arts forever. Like
I just found the switch for the headphones.
Oh, please go ahead. Do what you got to do.
I just found it. Right. So so in 82, I saw the ad for what we call CMAA, California Martial Arts Academy, but I didn't do anything with it because what I had been doing since 1980, every July 20th, I had been going out to pay my respects at Lakeview Cemetery at Bruce Lee's gravesite.
Wow.
Right. So so I did that in 81. I did it in 82. When 83 rolled around, I was like, Dwight, you will only get so far in your understanding of Jeet Kune Do by paying respects to the deceased source. You have to check out the living source. Mm. So for me, that meant Dan Inosano. It didn't mean anybody else. It meant Dan Inosano. So in summer of 83, and I happened to fly into LA and then on to Santa Ana on July 24th, 1983. So I met him on his birthday.
Ooh, oh,
yeah.
You know, yeah, and because Bruce Lee passed away, well, we know back in '73,
right?
But and everyone's going to get me for not remembering the exact date, but I know it was only either a week or a few days before.
It's 4 days. Yeah,
that's Bruce, it.
Yeah,
and
July 20th.
Every time it comes up to be Guru Dan's birthday, you know, I'm happy for him, but I'm also so extremely sad because for him, it must be such a reminder. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, I think his birthdays for the past 51 years have been to a certain degree bittersweet, because it's
Yeah.
not, it's, you know, it's impossible, I think, for him to ever, for his birthday to be approaching and July 20th to come and pass, and there's no recollection. That's not possible.
No, it's not.
Right? You know, so then 4 years later, yeah, there's a celebration of life. But I think, you know, Inosano is, he's a wise enough individual that I am sure he has you know, reconciled himself with the fact that, yeah, 4 years after the passing of my teacher is my birthday, and you
Yeah,
know,
4
that's
days. Yeah.
it's the end of a cycle and the beginning of another cycle and whatever.
Yeah.
I'm sure that he has worked it out in his own mind so that it's not devastating,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Sorry, we didn't mean to get off track there, but
No.
so you know, it's just, yeah, it
Yeah,
tugs at the heart. There's no
right.
question.
Yeah.
Tugs at
So
the heart.
83 was the year that that I traveled out to LA. That was my first time traveling out. I spent 2 weeks. I spent a week with him, and I spent a week with Francis Fong. So I've known Francis Fong for the same 41 years that I've known Dan Inosano.
Wow.
So it's kind of
Amazing.
cool, right? Yeah. So this
Yeah.
weekend I'll be with both of them again, you know,
Oh,
4
so
decades
wonderful.
later. Yeah. Right. And I did that because my intention was spend 2 weeks in California, spend 2 weeks in the States, see what I could learn, come back to Barbados and share what I had done, my experience with the group of guys that I train with at home.
Right.
Right. But it didn't work out that way because I got bitten by the bug.
Yeah.
Right.
Just like most of us who
Yeah,
follow
I
this.
got bitten by the bug, and I had the wherewithal to get on a plane fairly regularly, right? And move around. So a few months ago, we were in Denver, Colorado with Vic Spatola, and it came out during the seminar. I'm sure you know Matt Stumpf. Do you know him?
No, I'm sorry.
Well, he'll be on your show because he is an Inosano
Oh
lineage
yeah, I'll take him.
instructor, right? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So Matt and his, I never remember if Jen is his wife or his girlfriend. And when they hear this, they'll kill me, but I'll get it right in Tulsa, Matt.
I
I
can't edit
promise.
these things, so.
Right. So it came out because Sifu Dan says something like, oh yeah, these two have they have been to like 15 different states to do seminars. And Matt goes, no, it's 24.
Wow.
Yeah. Right. So I heard that. I went back to my hotel room and I pulled up a map of the United States and I started plotting where I had been.
Okay.
So they are 24 and I am 15.
Wow.
I've been to
So
15.
they just traveled to seminars constantly.
Yeah.
Because when I was one time in Montreal at the Philip Jelenis Club, there was either a husband, wife, or you know, a couple there. I'm not sure if they're from Europe or London or England, but that's what they did. Could be the same people. I'm not sure. They just traveled to seminars.
Isn't it incredible
It's amazing.
right? If the topic is martial arts couples who travel around to follow Dan Inosano, there's more than one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And as you know from running a school, and I did from running a school, usually couples should not work together when training.
Well, I mean, we were in Lansing, Michigan with Okemos, Michigan with Cass Magda this past weekend, and Dave and Linda Hatch were there.
I was talking to him, and I think even though I haven't officially spoke with him, I spoke with him through Facebook, but I follow them. I think they're like the greatest martial arts couple I've ever met.
Yeah, for sure.
Just what an amazing two people. And I haven't even spoke to them yet, but just seeing their page and the training they've done their whole lives, and just it's just amazing. So
yeah. And that is, to me, a lot of this is testament to the power of Dan Inosanto.
I agree.
By power, I mean his ability to influence people of diverse backgrounds, people from, I mean, from all over the world, literally from all over the world, right? When I went out to CMAA in '83, they go, "Where are you from?" I go, "Barbados." They go, "Where is that?" Right? Because the week before I came out, there were some guys who had come out from Connecticut.
Okay.
So they were quite impressed that there were people who came from the East Coast all the way to the West Coast for their seminar. And then the next week, the skinny black kid shows up from the islands and they're like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" Right?
So obviously, and I'll jump ahead a little bit. Obviously, you've been under Guru Dan forever and you've done so much training now. I always like to ask people because at his academy, he has so many different arts and he's always involved with different things. Did you want to be like learn all of the ones, or did you pick particular ones you like? Like maybe you just like FMA and JKD, or you prefer Silat and Muay Thai.
Well, I would say that in the beginning, everything that he was interested in, I was interested in.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Right. Okay. But so even from, like I told you, my 2 weeks, I intended to make sense of it for myself,
Right.
because I was already sold on the idea that Jeet Kune Do is not a product. Jeet Kune Do is a process.
Yeah.
So you have to go through it for yourself. So the whole thing, Larry Hartzell and Tim Tackett, bless their souls, they were on the roster as teaching Jeet Kune Do. But I wasn't interested in training with them. Not that they're not capable, not that
Guru Dan was just doing Filipino arts.
Right. He was doing Filipino, but that didn't matter to me. I went for Dan, and I wanted the Inosanto experience.
Yeah.
You see? And I got it. And became a loyal follower. I was back at CMAA in '84. In '84, they went home because the guys who produced the seminar were not Californians. They were actually from Missouri, right?
Okay.
And so they took the seminar back home, '84 and '85, back to St. Louis University, and I was there both years. I don't know if it was right after the first seminar in '83 that I started going out to LA as often as I could. I'm not sure, but here's what I do know. We did CMAA in summer of '85. And in the fall of '85, I was in Lansing, Michigan, because it was in Lansing, Michigan that I was allowed into the instructor program.
Oh, okay.
In 1985.
Wow.
Yeah. So I know that by '85, within 2 years, I had started traveling specifically to attend Inosanto seminars.
Yeah.
Which is what ultimately prompted the move. Now, the move was going to be to LA, but I worked for Eastern Airlines. And the reason why it's called Eastern is because most of its traffic was along the Eastern seaboard, not the Western seaboard. So with my seniority, I would not have gotten a shift that was conducive to training at the Inosanto Academy.
Oh, okay.
So I did the next best thing, which was to move to Miami, a city that I had fallen in love with, and I'd become very, very familiar and very, very comfortable, right? And we had 3 daily nonstop flights between Miami and LA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So by '86, I was definitely going out there,
around that time period, obviously in Florida, in Miami area and stuff, there'd be no instructors that
No, I brought JKD as an instructor, I brought JKD to Miami. Now, before me, there was a guy, he wasn't an instructor, but there was a guy who had trained with Rick Fay from Minnesota.
Right.
And he was attendant, I can't remember his name, I'm embarrassed to say, but he was a student at the University of Miami.
Okay.
Right. So I think he had done like a little, maybe not even a club. Right. But when I moved to Miami, and I'm pretty sure, because I had met Rick Fay in 1983 also.
Yeah.
So I think Rick may have told me that he had a student who was in Miami.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Now, at that time period, like in your area, just real quick, there was also other martial arts going on, typical karate and judo.
When I moved here, in '86, I brought Jeet Kune Do, I brought Kali, I brought Muay Thai, I brought Savat because we had met. I had started training with Salem Asli by that time as well.
Met him too.
Right? Yeah. So in Miami there was a lot of Taekwondo because it's the South, right?
Yeah.
There was a lot of Taekwondo. There were a couple Kung Fu places. In fact, before I moved here, I used to fly up and I used to go shopping in Coral Gables at a place called the Hong Kong Gallery. And the Hong Kong Gallery was owned and operated by I think Al Agon was Cuban Chinese, I think. Right? Yes.
What a collaboration. That's awesome.
There's such a thing.
Wow.
See, so look, Ray, this is what's so cool about my town. So Al Agon is Cuban Chinese.
Yeah.
I went over to Jamaica Kitchen the other day. Guess what's there? Jamaican Chinese. Right? See, so I live in a town where on Tuesday, I went to breakfast at what Ron Goldstein and I call COW. It's Cuban American Original. So you have a Black West Indian in a Cuban American bakery and cafe. Right?
Yeah.
You see? And to us, that's normal.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of people
normal.
That'd be like, what?
Yeah. Right. So I live in a town where, at your house, the neighbor in front of you is from a different country.
Right.
The two neighbors on either side of them are from different countries also. And then the two neighbors on your side are from different countries.
Wow.
And we don't care.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
See? We don't care.
Being on the East Coast here in Nova Scotia, I'd say all of us, pretty much all of us, everything we know about, say, Miami, unless I've been to Florida, but I've only been to Disney World and stuff like that. But we get all of our information from movies, hip hop, and TV show Cops.
and so, what they depict, so I was talking today about a guy named Stevie Crockett, and my client says, "Oh, you mean like Miami Vice?"
Yeah, right? Miami Vice. Yeah,
right.
Will Smith, Bad Boys.
And here's the thing, it's all true. The locations, look, Bad Boys #1 opens up with a helicopter flying down Brickell Avenue. This is what, 1995, I think it was, right? No helicopter can fly down Brickell Avenue today. There are too many high rises.
Okay.
Right? It is one of the most gorgeous skylines in the world.
Wow.
I take a video of it every time that we go on a trip. Every time Ron Reagan and I leave on a trip, I'm at the window videotaping my town.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Things change,
I love it to death.
And which I guess that sends me on a question I have for you that would have been later, but I'll ask now. the evolution of what you have seen in, we'll say, Jeet Kune Do in training in from the 80s, the people that you knew, the training and how things were done and how classes were conducted. And then now you flash forward to 2000, we'll say 24, 25.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a huge difference, especially with social media, the internet, everything's on YouTube.
Yeah.
But what are some good and bad things that you think are about it? Even personal things, like obviously the good old days, you were training and everything was new, and you
Right.
only got information from magazines. Like I only could get information from Black Belt magazine. That's how I
Yeah.
heard about Guru Dan, right?
Right.
But
Well, the bad thing, I'll start there,
sure,
is that because of social media, which gives people with little to no understanding the ability to transmit their message
yeah,
around the world. So there's a lot of unqualified people that can put out whatever Jeet Kune Do.
yes,
Okay. But that's the way of the world. It's not just, that's not something that's limited to us. That's not even something that's limited to our brand of martial arts, right? And it's certainly not something that's limited to martial arts in general.
yeah, it
It's a
happens to everything.
worldwide problem for
Exactly.
every industry and every
That's right.
activity, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
You want
So
to be a
that,
brain surgeon, you could say you're one and watch YouTube videos.
yeah, right. So that's a downside that it can become more difficult. And see, Bruce Lee passed away 51 years ago. So there isn't even, let's call it a centralized a location, right? You know, where people can go and get that. No, because everybody, everybody wanted a piece of Bruce Lee because he was an international superstar,
Mhm.
right? So now they're self-made authorities, and the guy who does the best job of promoting himself as an authority on Bruce Lee and Jeet Kune Do gets the most eyeballs and the most comments and can build his reputation thusly
Right.
without necessarily knowing anything at all. So, you know, on the YouTube, there's this guy that runs a thing called Real Bruce Lee channel, or Bruce Lee Real Fight, or what have you.
Oh, there's a
And
lot of them out there.
right. And so much of what he does is so bogus, but it's real entertaining,
Yeah.
you know, because he's able to take a kernel of truth and then fabricate this entire story around a little kernel of truth,
Yeah.
right? And get tens of thousands of views and what have you, you know, and then he's real slick with the headlines that he uses because,
Sure.
you know, they're guys who know how to work the algorithm and what have you. And so they grow their channels and what have you. But a lot of them they don't have a freaking clue what's what and what's going on.
Right.
Right. Now, um, the positives is that Bruce Lee's art, due in extremely large part to the efforts of a single person, Dan Inosanto,
Yeah.
Bruce Lee's art has spread, I dare say, almost all over the world.
Yes.
Okay,
Absolutely.
right. You know, and how cool is that when we consider that in the 1980s, when he had the idea for the instructor program, his high-minded goal was to have at least one instructor in every state.
Right.
Now think about that.
Yeah. Amazing.
How big is the state of Texas? Right? How big is the state of Florida? But he wanted, right? Because he's not so commercialized in his mind, right? That'd be like,
Yeah,
oh,
and
that's, right?
I don't
I
want
gotta
to
have,
go
I
off
gotta
track
have,
on the
I gotta
topic.
have representatives in every major city
Right.
in every state. No, no, not at all. And I have been told originally it was really just instructors for Filipino martial arts. He didn't want to make instructors for Jeet Kune Do or anything.
Right.
Because that, to a certain extent, is, it's not, it is a touchy subject, but there's no reason for it to be a touchy subject. But what I mean is that there's so much headache for him associated with Jeet Kune
Oh
Do.
yeah, it's a whole different podcast. I mean, I'm on the
Right?
East Coast, and I only know from what I see on the internet, and
Yeah, yeah,
people
yeah.
posting on the.
Yeah. So he, uh, look, this is the way I have evolved with it. The greatest thing that you can do for JKD is to have JKD disappear. Look, here's how it was, Ray. In the old days, right? A guy who was always on about, Bruce, 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 JKD, JKD. People would look at him and go, he doesn't get it. He doesn't get it. If you see in The Warrior Within, so
Yeah.
somebody put up a clip from it, right? And in the narration, Sifudan says that he has a student who is a writer who says something like, forget Bruce Lee so that Bruce Lee can be
And he's
remembered.
remembered. That is
Yeah,
right. I remember that.
right? You see?
Yeah.
So you don't emphasize the JKD in what you do. You do what you do, right? The way you do it to the highest level that you're capable of doing it. And oh, well, in JKD, it must be this way, or in JKD. No. If you're caught up in that, you are not as good a student or an admirer or a follower of Bruce Lee as you think you are, because he himself said, don't get caught up in it. Not now, here's where I differ with a lot of people. A lot of people will say, it's Bruce Lee said, it's just a name, don't fuss over it.
Yeah.
Now, I interpret that to mean, don't fuss over the name. Call it whatever you want. Don't fuss over the name. He didn't say don't fuss over the art. Just don't fuss over the name. Because, well, you have to identify it somehow, right?
Yep.
It's a thing that it's an approach that you use. What you're just going to call it approach? What's this thing you teach? Oh, approach. No, you give it a name because it is a martial art method, right?
Yes.
So you give it a martial art sounding name, Jeet Kune Do. Yeah. But if the guy who founded the art said words to the effect that there is no single way to look at this art of his, okay? If you say that you understand him and his art at a high level, then you can't be carrying on about, oh, you're doing it wrong. I'm doing it right. Oh, Dan Inosanto is doing it wrong, but this other person who trained with Bruce Lee is doing it right. You're a moron.
Yeah. Man, this conversation went way different than what I had in my notes. My notes, it's all about asking about you and you and just, but this is fantastic. And this is like
yeah, see, look, because look, this is the thing, right? Yes, you start out, and in fact, I was thinking about this today also, right? Because Cass was telling us, and it's a story I've heard from him many times, but he was telling us about early seminar experience in England.
right.
Okay, so you show up, and there's 100 people, And you're supposed to teach Jeet Kune Do to 100 people.
Yeah.
100 people who have no idea what the on guard position is. 100 people who don't know where to carry their hands, don't have a basic boxing or kickboxing structure.
Right.
Right. So that's the dilemma right off the bat. Because at home in LA, here's the structure. From Bruce Lee to Inosanto, here's the structure. We work on conditioning. So you warm up, and then there's physical exercises, conditioning exercises and what have you. Then you work on the striking equipment, and then you glove up and you spar.
Right.
That's it. Sparring was the crucible. So even in the early days of Inosanto's, what we affectionately call the Kali Academy, and we call it the Kali Academy because to keep referring to it as the Junfan Gung Fu and Filipino Kali Academy takes too long.
Oh,
so
yeah.
You just shorten that to the Kali Academy, right? That was pretty much the format as well, because you had about 10 people in class. And so when they sparred, you could monitor them and coach them, and they could work on stuff. And one guy could be saying to the other guy, okay, so how come you nailed me with that, right? What is it that you think I was doing wrong? Or another guy could be watching these other two guys and what have you. You cannot do that en masse.
Of course, yeah.
Right? So something had to change. Also, I know you don't do the politics on your show, right? So it wasn't. Jeet Kune Do is not an art that is easily transmissible in that kind of a setting.
Of course.
Because remember, it's a personalized thing. So what can you do instead? You can give people training exercises that will help them to get the essence of the art, to get an idea of the art. But you can't have you can't have that big of a thing going on.
Yeah, I think most people who even like within the last, say, 10 years or whatever, when you go to even before that, I met Guru Dan in 93, and of course at a seminar. It was one of his typical seminars, where I don't say overloads you, but there's so much information, and which is fantastic. And to anyone who's not familiar with that way of training, you're just overwhelmed. I know it's like, here's 5 things we're going to work on. Go practice. 2 minutes, 3 minutes later, you're like, okay, here's the next couple things. And I'm going to slow it down for you. But then he's just as fast. And it's just his style. It's amazing. I'm not criticizing it. I mean, it's amazing. But it makes some people quit. And it also makes some people go, I want to learn that. I know, yeah. And I'm going to work on learning the first 3 moves he did, and that's it.
See, so a number of things. I think you made me think of a number of things. One, he used to say to us in the old days, frustration is good. Right? Okay. Now, again, when I tried to be an Inosanto clone, right? I would just repeat that. If I said it today, I would embellish it. It's not frustration is good if you are someone who intends to work through your frustration. If you leave it just at frustration is good, there are a lot of people who are gonna go, you're wrong. You're so wrong because you didn't add that second part.
Correct.
A guy like me, if Dan Inosanto says frustration is good, I'm down. Yeah. Right? You see, but generations change. You see? So look, here's the awful truth. If you've been with Dan Inosanto for 15 years, 15 years is a respectable amount of time to be with an instructor. But if you've been with Dan Inosanto for 15 years, you've been with him since he was 73 years old. So here's what you should realize. You have never experienced prime Inosanto.
Beautiful.
Okay?
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Now, there's the thing.
That's the truth.
Any level of Inosanto is better, right?
Yeah.
Okay? So don't get me wrong. So anybody who hears me say this, if you happen to be someone who has only been around since 2009, I am not putting you down. I am just pointing out to you the reality of your situation. Now, in my opinion, if I've only been with Dan Inosanto since he was 68 years old, I want to be best friends with the people who have been with him when he was in his 60s.
Yeah.
Right? When he was in his 50s.
Doesn't it go back to what Bruce Lee said once? Don't go to the top guy. Below him.
Yeah.
You know, if you can't find the main instructor, go to the belt level below him or whatever it is.
And if you can find somebody who's been with Inosanto since the 70s, right?
Yeah.
Now, there's not going to be any spring chickens because, you know, right? Yeah. But those are guys that you want to be on good terms with them.
Correct.
You know, I got Inosanto at 47.
Wow.
Okay. Right. Now, that's not bad at all. Because he was still in the gym, right? He was still pumping. He was still I mean, he and I we never did our road work together, but we would be out on the road at the same time.
Right.
Right. You know, I mean, so much so I can remember him and I were out doing the road work in St. Louis. And then I can remember at a seminar, either in Naples or in Sarasota, Florida, things had changed where he was walking around the hotel property, but I was still doing my road work running.
There you go.
Right? Yeah. But that's how much my decades of experience with him, that's how now we both walk around the hotel property.
Yeah. And you know, as everybody knows, he's always studying. He's studying research, philosophy, martial arts, anything. I mean, it's endless. It's endless.
Yeah.
I refer to him, and people don't quite understand, especially people who do martial arts, but there's lots of martial arts people out there that don't know who Dan Inosanto is.
Yeah, you know? That's true.
But I refer to him as the world's most knowledgeable martial artist.
You know? I can see
overall knowledge, I think.
Yeah.
You know,
I can see that. I can see that. I mean, because, but then again, you know, we've been on the receiving end of that. Yes, so we're spoiled. Right? We're spoiled. But I guarantee you there's somebody in, you know, who's an ardent Kung Fu practitioner and believes that the grandmaster of his style is the most knowledgeable martial artist in the world, right? So, I mean, you know, but that's typical. But here's what I would do. I would go, oh yeah, okay. So you're Kung Fu grandmaster, right? Okay, what's your style? Okay, so well, he's a grandmaster in Choi Le Foot. I go, okay, all right. What else has he trained in? No, he's the grandmaster Choi Le Foot.
Exactly.
I go, yeah, okay, what else has he trained in? He's the grandmaster in Choi Le Foot. I go, okay, I'm done. But that's because
I'll keep you for about another 10 minutes.
Okay.
I have some fun questions for you, and we'll do a part 2 down the road because I have so many questions to ask you. I watched, you know, a lot of your podcasts. I really enjoyed your time you were talking with the Kung Fu Genius.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I listened to his podcast. When I'm at work, I work for an aerospace and defense facility, and I have it like 2 hours in the morning when I'm working. I can listen to all these podcasts.
Okay. Yeah. But, yeah. Alex is a good guy. He's a really good guy.
Very knowledgeable. And I don't know. I enjoy his.
He's a bigger Bruce Lee freak than I am.
Oh, yeah. So, not getting onto a long topic, but when someone asks you, Sifu, what's the difference between original Jeet Kune Do concepts? What would be your go-to thing that's pretty reliable?
Well, original is a name that is a term that was coined, right, to describe the what some people teach that they got from Bruce Lee. So
Right.
they don't really go very far beyond what they got from Bruce Lee. That's original.
Fair
Jeet
enough.
Kune Do Concepts was a well-intentioned idea from Dan Inosanto to show the commonality between martial arts,
Right.
right? To show that, let's say, if we want to consider a martial arts skill like trapping hands, you can find trapping hands in diverse methods. You can find it in Wing Chun. You can find it in Pencak Silat. You can find it in the empty hand portions of Filipino Kali. You could even find it in Western boxing to a certain degree, right? Because trapping is an immobilization, you can find it in judo and jujitsu and what have you, right? Yeah. So the thing about short answers to questions like that is that Jeet Kune Do is a thing that, you know how there are people that sometimes want simple solutions to complex problems? Jeet Kune Do is complex simplicity.
Mm.
That's why we can talk about it for 3 hours.
Right.
You see,
Yeah.
because it is complex simplicity.
It's a great way to put it.
Right? Yeah. You see,
Yeah.
so in my opinion, you don't do it justice with short, curt answers. And you certainly do not do it justice with the us versus them.
Oh yeah, that's a terrible thing, and I
mentality
that
or
should just
approach,
end. That just
right?
and
Yeah.
train under a legitimate instructor that can trace their lineage to someone, and just enjoy your time training.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and now my other question would be, someone from the outside has no experience. They just say walk into your school and they go, "Sir, what is Jin Fan Gung Fu and what's Jeet Kune Do?"
Oh, so
Like again, someone
when
with no experience, and
right,
we have
yeah,
5 minutes with them.
okay, all right. So Bruce Lee's Chinese name is Li Junfan, or is some Lai Junfan. And so when he came to the States and he started teaching, he gave a name to the place where he taught, and it was called the Junfan Kung Fu Institute. So that is institute, the place where Junfan, Bruce Lee Junfan, teaches martial art, Kung Fu. So initially, it referred to the name of the place. Now, as time went on, and now he's developing as a martial artist, and now he diverts from the Junfan method, because you can find publications of Bruce Lee's. So you can find manuals that say the Junfan method of Kung Fu or the Junfan method of boxing or what have you. So
Right.
there was such a thing as the Junfan method. But when he came up with the term Jeet Kune Do, now you could say there's a cutoff point. There's a cutoff point for when there was a thing called the Junfan method, and now there's a thing called Jeet Kune Do. But here's the important question. If the term Jeet Kune Do starts being used, and I'll make these dates up because I'm not that much of a nerd to know that it was January or July, right, 7th or whatever in 1967 that it happened. But my point is this: if in Saturday's class at the LA Chinatown School in 1967, the term Jun Fan was being used. And then Sunday and Monday is when Bruce Lee decided, okay, I am now going to refer to what I do as Jeet Kune Do. In the Wednesday session, are they teaching something completely new from what they were doing on Saturday?
That's right. Yeah, no, of course not. They're doing
No, they're not.
just
They're
a
not.
different name. And
Right.
so many arts do that. You know, even in
Yeah.
karate, they might call it one style, and then all of a sudden the next day it's a different style.
Yeah, you see?
And
So, but now as time passes and we're trying to chronicle the life of Bruce Lee, right? You know, somebody might say something like, well, Jun Fan is the physical art, whereas Jeet Kune Do is the philosophy behind it, right? And what they're trying to do is they're not trying to differentiate and say that one is substantially different from the other. They're trying to indicate that the reason behind the renaming of his approach was a philosophical one.
mm,
You see, it was a philosophical one, right?
interesting.
There was still the physical aspect of it,
Right.
but when people want to create antagonism, somebody will find something to argue about. To me, if from one day to the next he changed the name of his approach, the approach remained the same, right?
Correct.
Now there is also the consideration that, yeah, in the days of Jun Fan, there was the trapping hands and whatever, but by the time, you know, Bruce Lee was in Hong Kong working on the movies and what have you, the trapping and the Wing Chun were not that crucial anymore. You know, so there's the famous letter to James Taki Kimura saying that Chisao is out and whatever, you know, and then everybody interprets it their way because everybody interprets Bruce Lee's, and I'm included in this, to make their own point. The thing is, are you doing it honestly or not?
Right.
You see, if you're trying to say, well, Dan and Assad, let's not do the politics.
Yeah, no, I know. And you know what? Here's the thing. So many people are like, oh, they're ready for it. But one of my things with the Guru Dan Osano fan page is to be politic free and
Right.
just, whatever. But
Yeah.
that's, I know what you're getting at. And I just appreciate, your knowledge. And I know it's frustrating, I'm sure, for you to see all this stuff on social media constantly. And you just
Actually, it's not.
No? Interesting.
No, it's not frustrating. Here's why. Because, see, like I get in trouble on my Facebook page because they say, oh, you don't censor anybody. No, you know why? Because the more you show yourself to be an idiot, the more people see that. And then they can go, oh, look, here it is. It's Mr. Idiot with his idiotic post. And then you just ignore it. But if I whatever it is that you do behind the scenes in Facebook so that your post has to be approved by me, right? Yeah. Now I'm doing all the work. No, we're all adults and we're all training in one of the most sophisticated approaches to martial art. So shouldn't we be smart enough to know what's stupid and what's not?
Should be.
And then be smart enough to just avoid the stupidity. So I am not frustrated by it at all.
Okay, that's good.
No, I mean, not at all.
I know on your podcast you've had so many phenomenal instructors and people, just martial artists, and just such great conversations. And so
yeah,
I'll finish up again. I talked to you all night about this stuff, and it's amazing. Just a couple fun questions, totally different now.
Okay.
Give me your top 2, 3, 4. I always refer to it as your Mount Rushmore of martial arts. People that could be anybody, not maybe that you look up to, or just people that you admire in martial arts.
Okay, so Mount Rush, I actually did this, right? I think if you do a search on Facebook for my Mount Rushmore, I think it's up there, right? Anyhow,
It's from a
so
different podcast.
no, this
Okay.
is probably just a post that I did.
No,
Oh,
no.
and it lit a fire.
Oh no.
Oh, it lit a
I'll tell
fire.
you how I
People,
came up with that question in a minute. Because
okay. Yeah,
I
because people
learned,
are
I
like,
learned,
go ahead.
I learned from all the podcasts I listen to. I listen to MMA podcasts, BJJ podcasts, yours, traditional ninjutsu. I love them all, and I listen to how the hosts ask questions, and I take from
Hmm.
that. And there's one particular podcast I listen to called The Everyday Martial Artist,
Hmm.
and he speaks to everybody of all styles, regular people like me to high level instructors like you or whoever, and Bill Wallace, people like that. And that's one of the questions he asks. And I
Huh.
just like how it's worded. What's
Yeah,
your Mount Rushmore martial arts? Okay, Sifu,
yeah,
tell me.
yeah.
Give them to me.
Okay. So forget Jeet Kune Do,
Okay.
right? On mine would be Katsuaki Sato, who was a top Kyokushin student under Masutatsu Oyama.
Okay.
Larry Carnahan, who was a top student on Taekwondo student under Grandmaster Jun Ree.
Oh, that's Julie.
Okay. Um, oh man, see,
That's okay. We can come
yeah,
back to it.
yeah, no, because there's so many,
So many, of
right?
course.
There's
Yeah.
so,
No
I
end.
mean, to a certain look, I have a soft spot for Shotokan karate in my heart because even though I never joined the Barbados Shotokan club,
Right.
my sparring partners came out of Shotokan, and I would go watch their classes all the time because I admired that they actually had a building, and a school setup.
Right.
So there was something there. And so Teruyuki Okazaki, who is the head of the International Shotokan Karate Federation, is somebody. And then Pugil Guan, who is a Taekwondo artist, and then Chong Lee, who is another Taekwondo artist, and I learned all my kicking from Dynamic Kicks by Chong Lee,
Oh, I remember that book.
right? And
Yeah.
then the last one would be James Liu, who I learned a lot of my kicking and stretching from James Liu.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Any martial art movies? Favorite martial art movies?
Yes, Snake and Crane Arts of Shaolin, Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
That's
There you
it.
go. That's
That's
it.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
now everybody, I could feel all the arrows aimed at me, because I didn't say Enter the Dragon.
Ah,
No, Snake and Crane Arts of Shaolin.
exactly. Definitely.
Yeah,
Any
yeah.
books? Particular martial arts books or books in general? And again, no worries.
I well, shoot.
I mean, I
If you
know you
were,
probably have a huge collection too. So
yes, I do. I do.
yeah.
I'm probably close to 2,000 books or something
Wow.
in
Amazing.
my library on, and I dare say I have about, it might be 40. I have about 40 books on mystical, what some people would call mystical Judaism,
Okay.
right? So and then I probably have about 40 books on small business marketing.
There you go. And why the name Jeet Kune Do Rebel?
That's a marketing thing. So
Okay.
I ripped off a top copywriter named John Carlton, who was the marketing rebel,
Ah.
right? But also, that was partly it. But also, I ran quite a successful school without karate eyes in it.
Ah,
I
nice.
never went with belts.
Right.
I never went with 80% kids in my school. We were 80% adults.
Right.
Right. Okay. So I did things on a professional basis. I rebelled against the idea, right?
Very tough to do. Good for you.
Yes, I rebelled against the idea that we had to follow the Taekwondo model.
Right.
Right. So what I did was I analyzed everything that I got from John Graydon and Stephen Oliver and the Coquinos guys at EFC, everything that I got that worked for them, and I whittled it down to JKD, because here's why. The founder of Jeet Kune Do is one of the most famous people in the world. So why isn't his art? Why can I not be proud of that, right? And in promoting my school and my art, why do I have to do anything for a style like Taekwondo or karate, the founder of which people don't even know, but everybody knows who Bruce Lee is? And I tested this at business conferences, right? I'd be on stage and I'd be like, okay, everybody in the room, raise your hand if you know who Bruce Lee is. Okay, so 99% of the hands go up, right? Now, everybody in the room, raise your hand if you know what Jeet Kune Do is.
Wow. That's actually good. I'm going to use that sometime. I like that.
Yeah, drastic difference. So everybody knows Bruce Lee, but they don't know his art. That is a failing of all of us collectively.
Very good. Very good. Okay, listen. Again, I appreciate your time so much. I interviewed for John Maidment, and Tim is coming up. How do you pronounce his last name correctly?
So my loving nickname for him is Bescherer, right? But it's Becker.
Becker, that's okay. I want to make sure. Again,
sure. But I that's my boy.
Okay, right? I'm going to refer to him maybe when I post it. I'm going to talk about him as the remember the movie Roadhouse? Of course, Dalton. You know, Patrick Swayze.
Yeah,
he's the Dalton of the Inosano Academy. Meaning that from following him online, he's always the guy that I see. You know, people like yourself too, but he's always there to protect. He'll put people in their place. He'll tell people the way it is.
Tim and I have a different approach, but yes.
That's from what I see. Again, I'm the East Coast Canadian guy. All these martial arts people I only know from social media, Facebook, magazines, and so I'm just learning. And I'm going to interview Seafood Kevin Seaman coming up.
That's another one of
Cookie from Australia.
I'll probably see Kevin this weekend in Atlanta.
Perfect. Yeah. And in November, I'm going to do David and Linda Hatch. Nice. And then over time, I'm going to just try to interview more and more Inosano instructors. And I've already had a couple of people request interviews, but they're not even associated with us. They're just like, I teach Jeet Kune Do. Let me talk about it. And I'm like, nope, not interested.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is
tell them to talk to me, because I'll talk. Because see, one of my things, right? One of my things. Sorry to keep you, Ray, but one of my things. The reasons why I will talk to anybody about Jeet Kune Do is because I want them to understand. Yes, I'm an Inosano boy, but you know why I'm open-minded? Because my teacher taught me how to be open-minded.
There you go. Okay. We'll leave it at that. I was about to ask if there's any last words or philosophy you wanted to say, but that's it. Love and respect to Guru Dan, always the greatest martial artist ever. And again, I appreciate all your time, and we'll be in touch and try to enjoy your evening.
All right, Ray, have a good one, man. Take
care.
You
as well. Thank you, Seafood. Right. I'm just going to stop this button for a second, okay?
Okay.
Don't go away. And